That's what a $130 piece of steak look like here in New York City.
What's up, hungry people? It's Sava here, and today is such a gray and rainy day in New York. We're gonna be doing something a little bit different. We're on our way down to Soho, and we're gonna do some shopping, but while we're there, we're gonna be stopping into Japan Premium Beef to buy some Wagyu. I think we're gonna get American Wagyu and Japanese A5 Wagyu and kind of do a little comparison video. We'll take it home, we'll cook it up. Come along with us on this Wagyu adventure. On this Japanese versus American Wagyu showdown, we want to know, is it worth it? Is Japanese A5 Wagyu worth the $130 a pound price tag? And what's the difference between it and the $45 a pound American Wagyu? We'll take you along with us to buy this incredible beef at an NYC specialty butcher shop, and then we'll head home to cook it up. If you want to know how to cook a perfect steak at home, even if it's not Wagyu, then stay tuned to learn. When you walk into Japan Premium Beef, you're met with huge hanging racks of dry aging Wagyu tomahawks and a case full of Japanese A5 Wagyu. Next to that is another even bigger case filled with American Wagyu and heritage pork. After talking to the friendly butcher about what we wanted and dropping a whole lot of money, we were on our way.
So we're here in Japan Premium Beef. We got the Japanese Wagyu. That's $130 a pound there. Pretty expensive steak. We got the ribeye, American style. And this I had to take home because it's the ground beef to make Wagyu burgers.
Floyd's like looking at us like we're crazy.
So we're just doing a video here, video shoot. Sava's video shoot, by the way. SavaSnacks, like and subscribe on the channel, please.
Alright, so we're home from our Wagyu shopping adventure. We're gonna be keeping the ground beef in the fridge and just tonight cooking the two steaks. So, I don't know if I explained it, but when we were at the store, we got this big ribeye of American Wagyu shu. So it's an American breed of cattle, but you can see the marbling of the meat. And what we want to do, what we told the guy that we wanted to do is we wanted to cook both steaks and see what the differences were. Honestly, now that I'm like holding both of them, there's a huge difference. And then here, we have the A5 Wagyu New York strip. This is what the gentleman at the store recommended to us. He said it's all meat and it's gonna give you an amazing flavor. American Wagyu, Japanese A5 Wagyu. This was $130 a pound. This was $45 a pound. Let's see if the price point is worth it. We're gonna be cooking the steaks really simply today. So as I told you, this is not my usual cooking video setup. I have Joel behind the camera. But when I cook steaks, so steak is something that I actually don't order out at restaurants a lot because I think you can make an amazing steak at home for way, way less money, and it probably tastes better than what the restaurant is gonna serve you. So we're gonna be cooking these steaks with some fresh garlic, some rosemary. Did I just throw a piece? Some rosemary, and then just salt and pepper. That is all you need for an amazing steak, and you need to get a good sear on it. I'm gonna be cooking these steaks in two different pans because you can see there is a huge difference in thickness. So as you can see, I held it for like a minute and my body heat is already starting to melt the fat. So I'm gonna season these two steaks up. I'm gonna start cooking this one first, and then while this one is cooking, we'll throw this one on too. Onto your steaks, you want to liberally douse them with salt and pepper. So salt and freshly cracked black pepper is key. One side, flip it, other side. And honestly, a lot of this salt is gonna end up coming off in the pan, so you don't really have to be worried about over salting it. Again, more black pepper. You want to get the salt on the edges too so that the entire thing is really nice and flavored. And that steak is ready to cook. We're gonna do the same for the Wagyu. Salt, pepper, and I really wanna make sure that I don't overcook this. I also just think the simpler the preparation, the more you can actually taste the steak. This is gonna go into the fridge until this is cooked a bit. So first thing, as I said, we're cooking the American Wagyu shu on a high heat in a hot preheated pan. I'm gonna add a little bit of oil. So you wanna add vegetable oil to your pan, not olive oil, because olive oil will burn too easy. We wanna get a really nice sear on this steak, so we want the pan to be hot. And in goes our steak. Ooh. Hear that sizzle? We're gonna give it a couple minutes on this first side and then flip it over. You also wanna make sure you sear the edges when you cook the steak so you don't have gray edges of your steak. And the other important thing is that you don't play around with it too much. You're just gonna flip the steak a couple times. You don't wanna keep prodding and poking at it, otherwise you're gonna mess up your sear. So a couple minutes on this first side, flip it, couple minutes on the second side, then we're gonna sear the edges as well. So we're gonna flip this steak the first time. It's been cooking on the first side for about 2 minutes. Ooh, that's what you call a sear. So once this is seared for a couple minutes on the second side, I'm gonna sear the edges and then put in the rosemary and garlic with some butter and butter basted. To sear the edges, you do need tongs for this. And what you wanna do is pick it up and push that down so that the edge has as much contact with the pan as possible. So you can see the difference here between the seared side and the unseared side. You want it all to be like that. So I know my steak still is not fully finished cooking. I've lowered the heat. I can see that it's really soft in the middle. Now I'm gonna throw in the garlic. You don't wanna throw the garlic and rosemary in too early, otherwise it will burn. Just a little bit of butter. Now this is called butter basting a steak. We're gonna flip it over so we can baste the other side. Same thing, scoop and pour. And you don't want to overcook this steak. I'm gonna just leave it in there for another minute or two and then remove it to a tray to rest. All right, so my steak is finished cooking, and what I'm gonna do now is remove it to a tray, and I'll just put the rosemary and the garlic over top of it. And this needs to rest for a few minutes, so I'm just gonna put foil over it to keep it warm while we cook our A5 Wagyu. All right, so now our A5 Wagyu is going in. This is gonna be a lot quicker than the ribeye because it's much thinner. I'm not gonna sear the sides, I'm just gonna get a really nice sear on the front and back. All right, here we go in for the flip. Stunner. Throw in our rosemary, our garlic. And honestly, it doesn't need it, but a little bit of butter. All right, now this steak, also coming out. Garlic. So we're ready to cut our ribeye, which has been resting for a few minutes. And I always like to cut the steaks for people just because I think it makes it easier. And one thing that I do want to note is that you want to cut against the grains of the steak. So the grains are the way that the muscle fibers are running, if you can see there. So you want to cut an opposite direction so that the meat is the most tender. So I'm going to start from right here. I like to make kind of thinner cuts. Perfectly cooked. Okay, now here's our Wagyu that I'm also gonna just cut up. And this is really thin, so it's not gonna be cooked the same. Let's see how it's cooked. Still super juicy. So our steak is cooked and we're ready to try. Which one do you want to try first? I kind of think we should try this first. What do you think?
No, I want the Wagyu.
Okay. All right, so Wagyu bites first. Oh my God, it looks so juicy. This is my first bite of A5 Wagyu, maybe ever. Have we had it?
I think
we've had American Wagyu, but not A5 Wagyu.
Not A5.
All right, here we go. Oh my God. Whoa. That is A5 Wagyu. Oh my God.
It's everything that you want in a steak.
It is so tender, so rich.
Gelatinous.
Juicy, yeah, almost gelatinous because there's so much fat in there because the fat is so marbled in that meat. It's just like biting on like the tastiest, beefiest fat that you've ever had. And the way that we cooked it, just a quick sear, it gives it that little crunch on the outside, and the garlic and the rosemary. I swear by steak with garlic and rosemary. That is where it's at.
This is why this shit is so expensive. Mm-hmm. Because it's so good. Like, look.
All right, next up, I'm gonna have a bite of this ribeye. Can you see it? Are you still going in for the Wagyu over here? Or did you try this one?
I tried that one.
What? You tried it without me. So now, obviously not as tender, but that is a damn good steak. Yes?
It's a really, wow, less oily.
Yeah, less fatty.
Less fatty.
But still
It's
very juicy.
Still very juicy. What's your favorite?
The A5 Wagyu.
Why?
It's just like next level. I don't think that's a steak that you could eat on a weekly or bi-weekly basis, but for a special occasion, yes or no answer.
A5 Wagyu. You don't even gotta ask me twice.
A5 Wagyu for me, is it worth it? Hell yeah. Not often, but on
Once
a
a month.
special, hell no. Once a month is a lot. Once a month is a lot. On a special occasion, is it worth it? Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Highly recommend if you're in New York, if you're looking for Wagyu, go to Japan Premium Beef. And if you are somebody who loves steak, go buy yourself a piece of A5 Wagyu. It's worth it and you won't regret it. Anyways, thanks for coming along with us today. We're trying to finish off this steak. Well, Joelle's definitely gonna finish it off. If you like this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. See you next time.